Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Bow Hunt or Die. We are out here today at my farm and we're going to be working on my fall food plots. I got with me today Ben. Ben is our new employee here at bowhunting.com who's going to be learning the ropes and diving in, and he's got a couple big bucks he's chasing this fall, which is cool. So we're going to be talking about his big monster buck and how he's going to kill it a little bit. Cole's here to help out. Cole runs the pheasant hunting club that we own, Coon Creek Hunt Club, but let's go ahead and dive into the most important things that we're going to be talking about today, and that's going to be helping you do the best that you can do with your fall food plots. Before we dive into this video, listen, I don't want you to get into this video and see my tractor and be like, I don't have a tractor, I don't have a drill like that, because what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about Ben in his micro plot that he's working on, that he's already getting some photos of some nice bucks that are hitting it, and he literally just started setting that micro plot up in the last couple of days. So we're going to talk about his plot. It doesn't matter, guys, the size of the plot. What matters is the execution of how you put your seed in the ground, how you prep your ground, and it doesn't matter necessarily the equipment you have as long as you follow the appropriate steps. And that's what we're going to be covering today. So in that way, when you're done watching this video, you know exactly what to do to go get your fall food plots in the ground and get them growing. So right off the bat, guys, why did I want to do this today? Does anybody know why I wanted to do this today?
It's gonna rain tonight.
It's gonna rain tonight. We've been watching the forecast, and unfortunately, I usually put my fall plots in about a week and a half earlier than today's date. What's the date today? Is it like the 14th? That's what I thought. It's the 14th. Usually I'm about a week earlier than this, but I basically saw like no rain in the forecast, so I decided just to wait and to hold tight, because that rain is critical for multiple reasons, and we'll get into that as we start getting into actually planting the seed. So today's goal was like, we see that rain on the forecast. It's like a 95% chance it's supposed to start tonight, and literally we've got a lot to do today. We're going to hit multiple farms and we're going to try to get all this done today, so we're going to be cruising along pretty quickly. So first things first, we're going to get out to one of the fields and we're going to start showing you kind of some of the prep and some of the things that we're going to need to do and you need to be thinking about. But right off the bat, we're going to spend 2 seconds talking about your plot, Ben. Ben called me a couple days ago and he's like, Todd, I got this giant buck that I'm chasing. I've got this area years ago that I kind of cleared out. It's pretty small, it's in the woods, but the deer frequently like to come to this area and I just want to sweeten it up. And Ben's looking at me going, Todd, I don't have a drill. You know what, I got a four-wheeler and I'm used to going into there and tearing it up and you know, using the tires to kind of dig up the ground and using weed whippers. And that's literally what he did, is he went into this small area, he broke up the ground using the tools that he had at hand, some rakes, he used the weed whippers, he cleaned it out, he sent me a photo, and it looked really pretty good, because the most important key that you have to remember when you don't have a drill, you got to have that seed to soil contact. One of the best things you can help with seed to soil contact is timing. If you get that seed on the ground like Ben did last night, and then that rain comes tonight, these really small seeds do not have to get very deep in the ground. They just need to make that contact with that soil so it can then obviously germinate and start to grow. And I think Ben executed that perfectly. Now, he still has got, because he used the weed whipper, a lot of those weeds are just waiting to just come busting out of the ground. So what he's gonna do before that seed germinates, he's gonna take some Roundup with him today. He's gonna go back to his small micro plot and he is gonna spray that with Roundup after the rain to know that that's killed, giving his seeds the best chance to germinate and get started, so that plot can be the best it can be. So we'll go over a few more of those details deeper into this video on what he'll need to do after he sprays the Roundup. But for right now, let's stop talking and let's get into this first plot so you guys can see how to have a great plot right now for this year. Okay, we've made it up the first plot here, and we're going to show you why and what to do in this plot to make it a successful fall plot. That's what we're out here doing today, is creating good fall plots to be able to attract deer. Ben, I know you're working on your micro plot. You were all excited when you called me, so we're going to try to make this as applicable to your plot as well, because you're looking at this big equipment saying, okay, A, I can't get a tractor back to that little spot. B, you know what, you didn't even think about fertilizer when you called me.
Nope.
You were just thinking about putting that seed in the ground. And the key is to make sure that you're gonna be successful. So the goal here is to make sure we're taking you through these steps. And remember, you don't necessarily have to do them exactly in the steps that we're doing. I mean, if you want to spray first, then put down your fertilizer. If I wanted to come back here and put my seed down first and then put my fertilizer down and then spray, you can do that too. But just remember, the key when it comes to spraying is the seed cannot germinate. If the seed's germinated, then you spray Roundup on it, you will obviously kill your seed. So just keep that tip in mind. But here we are, we're in a 1 acre plot. That's basically gonna be, this whole video is gonna be basically based around this 1 acre plot, even though we're gonna be doing multiple plots today, just so we can take you through these steps appropriately. So here we are. The first step for us today is fertilizer, okay? We wanna get fertilizer into the ground. Now remember, the secret to fertilizer, most people you talk to, they're like, you gotta work it in the ground. And that is true, okay? But personally, I do not like disking up any of my fields. All it does is bring up more weeds and more weed seed. And what it also does, if you keep disking over time, like with a rototiller, which is what most people use, it only gets so deep and then it ends up creating a harder crust line below that area. So what happens is most people just keep doing that over and over and over and over, and those roots will eventually grow down and then start going this way. That's why I don't like the rototill. I also just don't like keep bringing up all the weed seeds, and I also don't like all the erosion that can come with rototilling, especially when you're looking right here, everything is going downhill. We know rain's coming in tomorrow. If I came in here this morning and rototilled and made a beautiful seed bed, and bam, that rain came in, guess where a lot of my best soil is going? Right down there in that gully is where it's gonna go. On these hillsides, I am not disking or rototilling. I purposely, Ben, leave it just like you see right here. And I will be able to get good seed to soil contact, which is different than your situation, because I have a drill. You needed to remove all this material to be able to get that seed touching the dirt in a microplot, which is why yesterday you did all the things that you did to expose that dirt. Okay, so for right now, let's get that fertilizer on the ground so we can get you into the next step of having a successful fall food plot. All right, guys, we are moving.
Hey, Todd, I got a question for you.
What do we got?
What's the difference between putting the fertilizer on the ground versus in the ground?
That's actually a great question, and I'll probably get some comments on that, because some people will be like, man, you don't just go throw fertilizer on top of the ground because you're gonna lose it into the atmosphere. And it's 100% correct. You do lose some of your fertilizer when you do what I just did. I just broadcasted it on the top, and it will slowly just kind of evaporate into the atmosphere. I'm banking on this rain tomorrow, and I don't want to till. So ideally, I want to put my fertilizer down right when it's close to raining, so then it gets washed into the soil. The better way to do it, and I really can't say better, because it's not better for me in the application that I want to do here, because I'm doing everything I can to have healthier soil. But when you look at what a lot of conventional farmers do, or what a lot of guys will do at food plots, is they'll put the fertilizer down first and then they'll rototill it in, because when you work it into the soil, then it's right into the soil and it's evaporating into the soil, and then you're going to get the most amount of your fertilizer released into the soil that way versus losing some of it into the atmosphere. Okay, a couple of pro tips before we move on with fertilizing. Number one, if you're using any sort of tractor and you haven't got a quick hitch yet, you need to invest in a quick hitch. This is one of the greatest things, especially if you're by yourself, for being able to grab onto your equipment quickly and efficiently. Quick hitch. Google them. They make them in different sizes depending upon the size of the tractor, of course, that you have. Next thing I want to show you are these carts. I'm going to put a link to these in the bottom of the video. These carts are critical, especially if you've got concrete floors. It is the quickest, fastest way for you to be able to move your equipment around in your shed. In this particular case, I literally have mounted it permanently on this cart. So when I come backing in with my quick hitch, I can set it down, pull out my hydraulics, and literally roll this to anywhere I want. I also use these carts and have made permanent basically fixtures, if you will, to be able to set my sprayer on it so I can move my sprayer around. Even my big 8-foot wide brush hog mower, I back in here and I put 2 on the front of them, set it down, and I'm able to move my equipment around with ease. And when you're by yourself, it is a lifesaver. So make sure you check that out if you want to be fast and efficient with your equipment. I don't care what kind of spreader you have. If you're doing micro plots, smaller plots, and you're using the Moose utility one, you have to remember to always clean them out. Fertilizer is extremely corrosive, and it will basically ruin your equipment if you don't take the time to get the fertilizer off. Personally, what I do is I take my hose and I hose it all down and I make sure I clean it off. When I'm done wiping it down, what I like to do is then follow through using some silicone spray. Well, we've been hard at work already spraying some other fields. We're back where we originally started when we first started fertilizing. This is the last one that we have to spray today. Couple of key things here. This is a fall plot. I don't want to be competing with grass. Weeds are starting to kind of slow down their growth right now, but grass will come on more vigorous as it gets a little bit cooler temperature. So I want to make sure that this grass is dead in here. So I've already actually sprayed this one once before, but I want to hit it one more time because this was pretty tall when I sprayed it. So I'm going to hit this with Roundup. The other spots we already sprayed with Roundup as well. The next step then is going to be planting. But before we get into this, again, if you're planting a smaller plot, like Ben's doing his little micro plot that we've been showing you a few photos of, you can just use a wand or backpack type sprayer, or if you look at some of the Moose products that will go on back of your little ATV, you'll be able to get in there and spray those small fields. A little bit of luck, we're gonna get this rain tonight and we're gonna be sitting perfect. So let's go ahead and get this field sprayed so we can get into the planting. Okay, finally time to get seed into the ground. So I want to just kind of point out what I did here in this particular plot that we're standing in, which is different than where we started in that first plot. This here actually was Hunter's Haven that was planted right off the bat in the beginning of June. As you can see behind me, it's gotten super tall. There's all kinds of food in here, guys. I mean, literally, if I just walk over here real quickly and point some things out, I can see millet, I can see sunflowers, there's sorghum, there's beans, there's buckwheat, there's all kinds of food in there. Now, I did this strategically because I wanted to leave this up as a screen, keeping this little food plot basically hidden, okay? I came in here, I mowed it, I let it start getting green again, we fertilized it, we sprayed it, and now I got a little bit of a mulch kind of bed down here from all this decaying, dying material. Now it's time to get the seed down on the ground. In this case, I have a drill, so this works for me. I'm going to be able to drill right through here, get that seed in about 1/2 of an inch deep max. Hopefully tonight we get the rain that we need, and then this is going to germinate and it's going to push right through here. If we get a few more dry spells, this little mat that you see here is going to ultimately work as a bed, a seed bed, to kind of protect those seeds if it gets too hot, which is kind of nice. Now, Ben, in your case, it's a little bit different. You went in there, I'm getting the seed to soil contact because I have a grain drill.
Right.
That's very different than what you're doing. You don't have a drill. You're working on what we would call like a micro plot, right?
Yep.
So in your case, you had a broadcast.
Right.
Broadcasting on top of a matted mess like this is not going to work real well because that little seed might work its way down if you got a hard enough rain and maybe make contact, but most likely it wouldn't, and you'd really have a failed plot here. Even if you fertilize properly and even if you properly sprayed this, if that seed to soil doesn't make any contact, when it germinates, it's got nothing to grab onto, it's not going to happen. In your case, you cleared to your best of your ability and you got to where the dirt was showing.
Yeah.
You went ahead then and broadcasted your seed with a little broadcaster. Mm-hmm. You got that seed on there. You put down a little bit more than what the recommended rate is. You and I are both doing the same thing. We're both going with the winter greens.
Right.
We love this. I mean, this has rye, it's got rape, it's got all kinds of different seeds in here for the late season. And why I love this type of a plot for a fall plot is it's going to green up. It's gonna have all kinds of food for the deer. It's gonna get me through the season, but more importantly, because it's got some of the rye and wheat in here, what's gonna happen is come springtime, it's gonna then begin to green up, and then you've got more food for those deer to eat. If you don't do it that way, what ends up happening is you end up having like basically a zone of death. A lot of times what people like to do is they'll plant just brassicas, or they'll plant just rape, you know, or even turnips, right? And what happens is it looks beautiful, you got a lot of good food, but once they eat it and those tops are gone, you basically have nothing in basically March, April, and May until you're ready to redo the whole process again. Putting in a plot like this guarantees you not only having great food for the winter and fall, or fall and winter, but also into the springtime. That way you always have food on the ground and the deer aren't leaving your plots going somewhere else. We got all 4 of those plots done. Everything is planted. All of these plots now are successfully in. One thing I just want to remind you, don't panic. If for some reason you don't get the rain that we're expecting to get and you start feeling like your plot's failing, you can go back in there and you can broadcast multiple times right before rain and you still can end up with a very nice fall plot. So don't panic if it's not looking as good as you expected it to look. We've covered a lot of ground today. Take your time, watch the videos, comment below. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them. So make sure you put those comments below. We want you to have good food plots this fall. We want you to help the herd out, help the turkeys out, help wildlife out. That's what it's all about. If you didn't take time to watch my wildflower, the best buck bedding in my opinion, video, make sure you go back and watch that video. We'll link it below. Otherwise, we are getting much closer to the start of the season. We are weeks away until some of our teammates are already going to be hunting, which is pretty cool. I mean, literally September 1st is right around the corner. So there's some early season velvet hunts and so forth. So until next time, guys, we all know what to say, bow hunt or die.
Ben. Bow hunt or die.
Yeah, what the hell, Ben?
Oh, hopefully you got a video of that.
Maybe. I might.